Okay, so it was now the first Christmas, and we had gone back, and I remember I was putting a few decorations up because I was going to be spending the holidays there, and I didn't want the place, going without anything. And I just quickly want to say that if it were not for my neighbors who were like my family, Carol, and her mother before that, and her grandmother, but if it weren't for Carol and Ray, I would have never been able to stay for a year and a half and accomplish everything I needed to, because they still lived next door, and they would they had keys. We always had keys to each other's houses, and they would walk through the house on Friday nights and just check and make sure the water and the gas and everything was good and working. And they would collect the mail, and Ray had, the lights on a timer. I just wanted to, just go back to that for a minute. So I was putting some decorations and some lights in the windows and stuff so that, Ray put them on the timer so they would go off every night at a certain time. And I remember looking for my Christmas stocking, and my Christmas stocking was no big deal. It was just plain red stocking, little jingle bells, my name written in pen, Debbie. I've had it since I was born. And my mother used to put it out every year, and she would put, like, I don't know, razors, Bic razors and deodorant and things like that in it. Well, any rate, I looked for it, I couldn't find it. And it was like, okay, well, I haven't gone through everything. It'll show up eventually. And that was that. Just to give you an idea also of, we found everything. We found letters that my grandmother wrote to Italy, corresponded. We found photos of people we didn't even know who they were, that we could read in Italian that these were cousins or whatever, and I didn't even know who they were. It was just everything. Everywhere you turned, there was something that was my history, my family. And but to give you an idea of why I never threw anything out, about 5 or 6 months after, one week, and we were there going through everything, and I remember I'm in my parents' room, and my mother had a jewelry case. Now, mind you, I had taken out all of the jewelry, fun jewelry, real jewelry. All the jewelry came out with me that very first weekend after my mother died and went back to New York. She had a lot of great deco pieces and stuff from the 50s, and just a lot of great pieces, and then a lot of real jewelry. I have a lot of my grandmother's wedding jewelry from 1915, so it's over 100 years old now. And but at any rate, behind this piece of furniture, which held her jewelry, some of her jewelry, which I still have today, that piece of furniture, was in the corner. I was cleaning out the corner, and there was a brown bag. Now, again, I told you I wasn't even going to throw out a brown paper bag unless I knew what was in it. So, okay, let me see what's in that brown paper bag. Well, I opened it. Are you ready? There must have been 4 or 5 gold chains. This is true. 4 or 5 gold chains. Different lengths, different styles, with price tags on them. I mean, telling you, this is a little weird. And I remember my friends, I'm like, look at this. And they're like, oh my, I'm like, no. Did you ever see them? No. You have no idea? No, nothing. To this day, it's a mystery. I don't know where the chains came. I've had them appraised. They're real gold. I still have them till today. I use them. Where they came from, why they had price tags, I don't have a clue. I just know they were in a brown paper bag in the bedroom in a corner. I mean, so this is another reason why you see I was not, everything was going through before I said goodbye. Okay. Another day, I remember it really well, it was a Saturday morning. We were in the basement cleaning things out, and there was a cabinet that used to be my grandfather's, and my grandfather died in 1964. But I remember the cabinet. It used to be in my grandparents' room, and it held all my grandfather's papers and things that he deemed important. And in there was a big metal box, and we couldn't find the key. We couldn't. So I remember my neighbors, Carol and Ray, came in, and I said, Ray, do you think you can open this box? Because we were shaking it, and you could hear the papers. And he said, God, let me check. So he went to his workshop, and he looked, and he said, I'm going to be honest with you. The only way I can open it is to break it. I said, well, break it, because I'm not getting rid of the box until I know what's in it. Well, that was another emotional moment. In this box were my grandparents' immigration papers from the ships they came on, the dates. I mean, they're immigration papers. How much they paid in lira from the banknotes. There was a photo of my grandfather when he was in World War One. His actual release papers saying that he served in World War One. When he was a Carabinieri, which is a police in Italy. A whole article. I mean, it was just incredible. And I have to tell you, it was extremely emotional. And I mean, I cried. I mean, this was my family's history. This was the history of my family immigrating to the United States. These were the papers. And everything was in pretty good condition because this box hadn't been opened. I don't know. I mean, 1964, but God knows when my grandfather had opened it last. I think it had my grandmother's passport in it. But at any rate, I have all of that stuff till today. And I had I had a lot of the papers. I had them framed, and I had them framed as museum pieces. What that means is they're under a certain kind of glass so that if the sun hits it, they won't fade, water, fire, smoke, stuff like that. It was just so quite incredible to find these things. And so that's just, I wanted to just give you a little bit of what it was like. What it was like to find these things, find these pieces of my history, of my family history in this house. And that's why I was not about to let anything go until I went through every nook and cranny. And there was so much. It was overwhelming. And then when I think I finally made the decision that it was time. It was time to say goodbye. It was time to let the house go. And I will let you know in the next video blog, which will probably be the final. You're all saying, yay! No. When I made that decision.